Former Nigerian President Olusegun Obasanjo has attributed the country's development stagnation to what he described as self-centered leadership, who lack relevant knowledge and understanding. Obasanjo spoke in Abeokuta, the Ogun State capital, at the weekend, while speaking as a special guest of honor at the Leadership Empowerment International Conference. Obasanjo said, "Leadership is a lasting virtue that endures until the end of one's life," stressing that once the issue of poor leadership is resolved, we will get other things right. In his words, "If you ask me in one word what is the bane of Nigeria today, I will not hesitate. I will say it is leadership. Leadership that is self-centered, leadership that lacks knowledge and understanding, and leadership that does not view service as the core of what leadership is about. If we can get leadership right, we will get all other things right." He stressed that leadership must rise to its responsibilities to create a better world for all Nigerians. Let me start with you, Honorable Lan. I saw you nodding your head vigorously as I was reading the story. So what is your thoughts on this?
Oh, Choma, thank you very much, because I think an elder statesman ought to be given a standing ovation. And I must doff my helmet for that particular submission by the former president of Nigeria. Right. Like, going to the meat of the issue, Nigeria's problem, or our political problem, or the solution to all our economic challenges, falls bare within poor leadership. And it has not just only, fall within the political class. Today, the reason why even on the streets, the vices affecting the youth, including poor parenting, is as a result of poor leadership. Take, for instance, what do some other countries, like in the Asia, what do they have, natural resource-wise? I can tell you that there are some states in Nigeria. Let me even remove River State. I can use Abia as an example, that Abia is well-rich more than some countries in the Asia. Enugu has solid minerals. No, I'm giving you an instance. I said Abia. When I use the word Abia, I can tell you, in one local government in Abia, there is so much large resources of kaolin, and kaolin is the most essential commodity for you to engage in production of ceramics, including even the surfaces of the ceramics, the pictures, the glasses, the TVs, and a whole lot of things. But today, are these resources well manned or harnessed? The answer is no. During my election, Lauricia, one of my political covenants to my people, I said to my people, is either we'll get it right or we'll go into economic oblivion. And that is exactly what Nigerians are going through, because leadership has, meritocracy on leadership has been, it has been murdered. It has been murdered. So, and until we start giving those who understand what leadership is all about, because one thing is to occupy power, and another thing is to be endowed with leadership. Leadership is different from governance. One can govern and yet they don't have the quality of leadership. But when you're a leader, you lead from the front. When you're a leader, you will definitely know, you need no supervision for you to be accountable to your people. When you're a leader, you don't even need the people to, to tell you what is happening in Nigeria. Take, for instance, what our brother said on Arise TV, distinguished Senator Ali Dume, that even the president is not even aware of most of the activities that are happening in Nigeria. And with the evidence of what is happening, there is chances, or it's highly probable, that it might be true. Because if you also look at the rhetorics and the oratory speech of Mr. President to try to down the tension during the end bad governance, he only said, I have heard your complaint and we are walking behind, everybody should go back home. And that, it shows you that there is no empathy. It shows you that there is a disconnect. It shows you that in as much as these people are those who are governing us, who are ruling us, they are not leaders. And like my very reverend president, the most detribalized president of Nigeria, as a matter of fact, the best president that Nigeria has ever had, who saved so much in terms of financial income, including in our foreign reserve, and as well as clearing most of our old debt that none of our democratically elected presidents today has been able, to repeat the same feat. In the presence of President Olusegun Obasanjo, he has given us the summary of Nigerian problem. And until leadership crisis is resolved, not minding the large deposit of natural resources we have, Nigeria will continue to dwell in oblivion, a land of no return. And there is need for most, especially my fellow political class, to stand up, you know, and take the bull by the horn and embrace quality, fundamental, and empathic leadership, so that service delivery to the people will be the order of the day. And in doing that, Nigeria will be a better place. Thank you very much.
I will still come back to you over some things you said. And
absolutely. I'll be waiting.
But then, Chizzy, let me hear from you. What do you have to say?
Yes, of course. What he said, if I want to differentiate it between actions and speeches, what he has said is the correct thing. I can't take that out of him. And assuming without conceding that he's been wonderful as president, and I believe he did some work as president. But I want to ask one question. There is something in Nigeria that I have always seen reoccur every time. Every time a man comes down from an office, he becomes a repentant person and becomes the preacher of good governance and good leadership. I mean, he had an opportunity. One of the keys to leadership is engagement. The way you even employ somebody also counts in leadership. You were here with us, assuming nothing happened. We are not God to know what is going to happen. But there are history, there are intelligence that the president should have. And one of the intelligence is when he was going to hand over. When he was going to hand over, it is on record that we knew that the late Yar'Adua, of blessed memory, I don't doubt his quality, I don't doubt his capacity. But it's on record that while he was governor, that 50% of the time or 40% of the time as governor, that he was in the hospital. It was a record. Yet, Obasanjo jettisoned all of that. Amongst all of the bigger and better persons that he had to engage to become president, he jettisoned all of that and went and brought him. You know, I was arguing with one young man, and he told me, I was concerned why Nigeria had to be concerned about the president's head. And he told me something. He said, my brother, when a child is sick, God forbid, don't like it, somebody is sick. When a wife is sick, he said 50% of your house is sick. When the father is sick, he said the entire family is sick. And everybody was, including the fact that the late Yar'Adua was even in the hospital while he was campaigning. We saw it. He had wonderful people. He had very good people, even in the north, that he could groom up. See, one of the reasons why some of us who are Bible students will say that Joshua failed was the ability to hand over to the next person. Now, you see, if you don't have a successor that you handed over, look, this man, you don't know, Obasanjo went back to that Yar'Adua family that we're talking about. That's all he went back. He went back to that bias. That's why he insisted it has to be the man, whether the man was going to die in an office. And I think that was what even facilitated the man's death. Because the office of the president is not a small office. It's an office where you have to be healthy a little bit for you to become office of the president. He talks about leadership. Yes, we do. Even in families. Choma, as smart as you are and whoever, if today you have health problem, your leadership in the house will be questioned. Because of course there are certain things, you'll be constrained to do certain things. There are certain things you can't see. People can't even come to you. But Obasanjo gave us Yar'Adua. And before you knew it, there was issues that came, and then thank God Jonathan became president. So he was there. He had all the first class people around him that he could have handed over. Obasanjo could have handed over to anybody in that. He had the foundation of democracy. And it's important to do that. That means that he was going to build a foundation for Nigeria.
He built a foundation.
God gave us a man that was going to build a foundation and hand over to people who will continue. Let me tell you that what we're having, if Yar'Adua was healthy and fine, I wouldn't have been talking this. Because that would have meant that at least, nobody says that if you're healthy, you can't die. But at least for the period at which he was leading, we would have seen certain foundation he would have actually continued, if not for anything, to do. But you know that throughout the 2 years the man stayed in an office, it was like he didn't stay in an office. When a man is sick, everything about the man was sick. And so who brought the man? Yeah, Obasanjo. How did he bring him?
So you're saying, Chizzy, what are you saying?
What I'm saying
in essence is that Obasanjo is critiquing leadership in the country. Yeah. But when he was a leader,
he was also a leader.
He was also culpable by bringing in a leader who was not healthy enough to man the nation.
I'm telling you that one of the texts of leadership is your successor. That's why a leader will want to look at this man and say, look, let me give this person. You don't go back to bias. For instance, Choma, if I have a driver and I want to engage a driver, even if my brother is somebody I love so well and he knows how to drive very well, if I know he is sick, he can't carry me on the steering. It doesn't matter whether he's there. I found other qualified persons who can do that. But he was there. What I am saying in MS is that we have all these good speeches to make, but you were given an opportunity to do that, to lead us to another level, and you didn't.
All right. All right. Honorable Land.
Just a few things I want to, buttress upon.
All right.
Like my brother said, I want to take a total dissatisfaction or disagreement in some of his submissions when he said that Obasanjo, knowing fully that the former president of blessed memory and the person of late President Umaru Musa Yar'Adua, that's not fair and that's not charitable too, because you remember that this same Obasanjo, as much as we all know what has been happening within the political ecosystem of Nigeria, as a matter of fact, even with the template that Yar'Adua has set up and the number of people Yar'Adua surrounded himself, if not for the Nigerians happening to Nigeria within the political ecosystem, we wouldn't have been where we are today. Take, for instance, when Yar'Adua was on board.
What was Yar'Adua held?
Choma, there's a submission he made. Yes.
He made a point.
A very great point by succession.
Hold on.
Okay.
Chizzy made a point you cannot sweep under the carpet.
Absolutely.
Regardless of how you feel.
Absolutely.
Now, that point is he faulted the succession of Yar'Adua.
Okay.
Particularly with the ex-president Obasanjo knowing
the health situation.
Yes.
Okay.
And yet brought him in knowing that probably his health will not be able to carry on. You remember the issue between Ayaditiwa and Akeredolu?
Yes, I remember.
And how everything played out. Okay. And how at the end of the day, Tinubu had to order that handover should be done.
Okay.
So, like it or yes, we also need leaders that are healthy of mind, spirit, soul, and body to man the ship of Nigeria, because Nigeria is complex in its problems.
I agree. Lauricia.
So you can't sweep that under the carpet.
No, I'm not sweeping that under the carpet, but I wish maybe you got to understand the point I'm trying to make. The point I'm trying to make is this, Lauricia. Right now, with the state of things, Obasanjo handed over to Yar'Adua with good programs, with good templates. And even in the absence of Yar'Adua, all those things ought to have thrived. If you get my point, you will know the direction where I'm headed. I'm not saying that because nobody is born to live forever. And I've also seen those who are so sick, and yet those who are healthy, die before them. So we cannot use a natural occurrence of death and birth to judge. I'm coming.
You cannot excuse.
No, like I said, I'm not excusing. I'm not excusing. Listen, if we are saying, sorry, ma. If we are saying, for instance, that Goodluck Jonathan, knowing fully well the state of Nigeria, and handing over to Buhari, and after Buhari has led Nigeria and did and performed in his own maradonical and fallacious way, and the serving president today said that he wants to continue where Buhari stopped. Then we now see the nosedive, the trend. But now look at what I'm saying.
It doesn't.
When I'm coming.
Your example does not.
It does not connect.
Hear me. Remember that these people have come of age, and most of their times have always been in the hospital.
Very quickly, so you can marry it.
Okay.
There is a difference between bringing in a healthy person who along the line fell sick.
Okay.
There is a difference.
Absolutely.
And there is a very big difference between that and bringing in someone whose health is already in question.
Challenge. I agree with you. But
regardless of how beautiful,
regardless
of how beautiful the vision of that person is, it might not, like in the case of Yar'Adua, beautiful vision, but it was terminated.
Okay. Now, Choma, now that takes us back to the originality of what leadership is all about. Leaders don't create people. Rather, leaders create systems. And those systems become principle. And once those principles are stood by, every other person fall in line. And what Obasanjo did was not just only to give us a leader, rather he laid a foundation that Nigeria was supposed to tread upon.
What was the foundation?
The foundation. Remember that as at the time when Obasanjo was not the president of Nigeria, Nigeria had a lot of debts, foreign debts. Nigeria had a lot of issues economically, in as much as even our exports and our imports were nothing to write home about. You know, digitally we were not even anywhere. But at the end of the day, Obasanjo was able to bring a lot of economic attraction to Nigeria. So, but taking it back to the issue of handing over to my final word is, Obasanjo did Nigerians well by giving Nigerians a man who gave us a system. But it was so bad that the Nigerian people affected the system, became a virus to the system, that the virus, condemned the system, and at the end of the day, Nigeria is at the state of oblivion. So at this moment, I will not fault President Obasanjo, but what I will say is that as an elder statesman, he remember that if he was so bad, he would have handed over to his vice. And this was the same man that said that instead of him to hand over to his vice, who happened to be the chairman of the economic committee, that God will not forgive him. Because when you say that he had a lot of people to pick from. So I think at this moment, I want to say so much kudos to President Obasanjo for that humble statement.
Your final statement.
An institution cannot be built without human. And so in engaging the institution, he also needs, because we have institutions. Absolutely. So it is the man that is managing that institution that matters. So you must look at that. I say the president is privy to the history of this person. As good as and fantastic as Sharadua may be, but that he was not well health-wise. And by that Obasanjo bringing him was bad leadership, bad judgment.
All right. You guys have dissenting opinions, and it's well respected. Thank you so much.